Okay. I never know on this one. It says you're live and it still has it faded. Anyway, hello everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, the Nutrition Detective of nutritiondetective.com. This is our first YouTube live stream in a while. Today's kind of live stream was only meant to really be for people who are in the detox program, as we call it, the Love Your Liver program at nutritiondetective.com. If you're here otherwise, welcome. Hello. So there will be a bunch of new people. What I'm doing here today is very much like on the detox program. We have in that network, we have about 700 plus people. It's a very supportive place, and this is where people are working on things like, oh, Mike, thank you. This is live stream, right? This is live stream. There you go. I forgot my mic. There we go. Thank you, Lily. So this will sound better now. Anyway, it is July 29th, 2021. And so in the detox program, we have a really supportive community, and you can get access there at nutritiondetective.com. Inside of the network, what I'm going to do right after this is going to be less than an hour. I'm going to do my inner circle where people get to ask questions each week. And I do go, these are getting long because we have such great questions there. It's anywhere from 2 to 6 hours long. And then if people want to get a lower price version of that and see the videos a month later, that's the advanced detox program. And we're not going to take a lot of trolling on this channel, so we'll just we'll deal with it as it comes up. Anyway, if any of you guys have useful questions, stuff that you've been wanting to ask about vitamin A toxicity, vitamin A detox, I don't want to get into really complicated questions about it because that's, really what the network's for. One of the things we could go over. Let me find that post real quick on the network that somebody brought up. It was really great about a woman getting third-degree burns while she was sunning herself. And everybody likes to talk about how great carotenoids are in terms of protecting us from the sun. And they actually do quite the opposite. One of the well-known things about vitamin A toxicity is it causes what's called photophobia and photosensitivity, which is where photophobia is where your eyes get extra sensitive. And photosensitivity is where your skin gets extra sensitive to the sun. And lots of medications are associated with photosensitivity, especially ones like, Accutane. I'm trying to find the post. I know who posted it, so I guess I'm just going to have to search. Let me find it. There we go. But this woman, she put on a deep tanning oil. Here we go. Let me get the link for you guys. And then we'll head back in here. Okay, Mark, I will get to that question. There we go. So what she did, well, I'll just read it. Here we go. Here's the title. Mum cooked herself like a roast chicken as, quote, tanning oil disaster left her with third-degree burns. And so people are going, okay, so she was out in the sun 7 hours. Not good. She put her daughter in sunscreen. She didn't put it on, but what she put on was Calypso Original Carrot Oil, deep tanning spray. Carrot oil. Well, if the people who think carotenoids are sun protective or light protective, this woman should have been protected, right? Why would they put carotenoids, carrot oil, into a deep tanning oil if carotenoids protect you from the sun, right? That doesn't make any sense. So during the 7-hour stint, it says, however, later that evening, she was forced to sleep on top of her duvet cover as her legs were incredibly tight and painful, and days later, blisters erupted on her left leg, including one the size of a satsuma. I don't know what a satsuma is. Maybe somebody in the chat can educate me. I didn't look it up. After a visit to a walk-in center and hospital A&E days later, Laura was told she was suffering from third-degree burns and said her scorched, crispy skin looked like burnt chicken skin and even sounded like that when it cracked. Horrifying photos show Laura's legs burned red raw with large wounds where the skin has peeled away, exposing painful burned flesh underneath. Okay, so you guys can see the rest of that article if you want to. But, right, carotenoids protect your skin from the sun is what they try to say in the literature. And what people think, they're like, oh, no, I'm going to eat lots of carotenoids. It's going to protect my skin. No. It's going to make things worse. Yeah, so carrot oil causing much worse burns than usual. So Stephanie said, ouch, pretty sure my eyes got unpleasantly sensitive from carotene. That's normal. Carotenoids are poisons. Plants mark poisons. Nature marks poisons in plants with bright colors, strong colors, dark colors. It's called aposematism. You can go look it up. I have an article on my, let me find the article that I wrote on my research forum about this. So the research forum is at nutritionrestored.com/blog forum, but let me find it. Nature does lots of things to help us spot poisons. Okay. Colors are a huge one. Strong colors, dark colors, bright colors. So the idea that we're supposed to eat a rainbow, if you didn't know, that idea only came about in the mainstream in about 2005, and Sesame Street was one of the first places they put it. Okay? When you think of eating a rainbow, the main colors of vitamin A, which is a poison, are yellow, orange, and red. Okay? How much of the rainbow does that take up? That's almost half of your rainbow, right? If you think Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Well, there's Roy. Nature marks poisons with bright colors. It also marks poisons with bitterness. Things that are bitter naturally, oh, I don't know, cocoa, coffee, other things like that are not good for you. So there was another question. So what was, but that's the carotenoid thing I wanted to bring up. So Mark asked, what kind of magnesium is suitable for use in foot baths? Generally that's, okay, we'll get into this quick. I am not a fan of Epsom salts. Epsom salts are magnesium sulfate. Excess sulfur in the body tends to deplete B1, thiamine, and it tends to slow down ALDH, which is also known as aldehyde dehydrogenase, which is part of your vitamin A detox pathway. It's part of your alcohol detox pathway. It's a huge pathway in your liver. As an example of what happens to people when they are genetically slow in ALDH, if you've heard of the Asian glow or the Asian flush, where it's up to 50% of Asians. Can this happen in other people too, in other races, other genetics? Yes, absolutely. But it's said to happen in 50% of the Asian population. And when they drink alcohol, you may have known somebody who has this. Like one drink will cause them to get flushed and very, very drunk. And they will be very, very hungover. And some people even term it an alcohol allergy. It's simply that what happens is they process the alcohol through ADH into acetaldehyde, and they can't process it further because they're slow at ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase, to turn it into acetic acid. So what hangovers are is too much acetaldehyde floating around in your system and causing you to feel bad. Well, the Asian flush is that the alcohol turns into acetaldehyde and gets stuck. Well, what happens with vitamin A? Just so you know, beta carotene gets cut into 2 retinaldehydes by alcohol dehydrogenase. They also call it retinol dehydrogenase. And then it can get stuck there as retinaldehyde. That's not good. Same thing with formaldehyde, if you're slow at that. So we don't want to do things that slow down our ALDH. So what do I prefer for anything topical, transdermal, magnesium? I use magnesium chloride. I suggest pharmaceutical grade magnesium chloride. I have a specific one that I'm not going to recommend here on YouTube that I do recommend on the network. Just because there's some qualifications I like to give to that recommendation. So, but that's what I like, is magnesium chloride. If you're out there and you have problems with Epsom salts, maybe it makes your heart race, maybe it makes it so you can't sleep. Everybody tells you should do it, but you just don't feel good when you do it. And you want to know the answer? I'll get into that on the network. There's a couple things that can go on. I, for one, at one point I was doing lots of magnesium sulfate baths. Things I did to my health that I know better than now made it to the point where if I took an Epsom salt bath, I could not sleep for 3 days. I fixed it. I know how to fix that problem now. So we're not going to get into that here, but we get into that other places. So let's see, next question. Oh yeah, as Lindsay says here, even retin-A skin products say to avoid the sun. Yeah, because vitamin A makes your skin more photosensitive, sun sensitive, light sensitive. And if you've got sensitive eyes to light, you always have to wear the sunglasses when you go outside, or you tend to be very sensitive to computer screens over a period of time, you probably have some vitamin A toxicity and subclinical cholestasis going on. So anyway, Shell asked, I have a question if there is time. What does off the chart high zinc on HTMA mean? That's hair mineral analysis. That's kind of one of my areas of expertise. Is it too much zinc or does it mean something else? So I get into this a lot in the seminar that I did for people who want to learn how to do hair analysis and blood analysis based on my research. You should know that hair analysis that I do is completely different than anybody out there. I have read people like Rick Malter. I took Malter's course. I've read Lawrence Wilson. I don't have a high opinion of that person and his work. Basically, high zinc on a hair test, the first thing you want to rule out is contamination. Where would the contamination come from with zinc? That would be stuff like Head and Shoulders. Or if you have a medicated dandruff shampoo. I remember, what's that one for that was originally for horses and they turned it into people? What was it? Hair, mane and tail, I think it was. I saw one at a friend's house once that I was staying over at, and it had zinc added to it. So first you want to check your hair products. Shampoo. Is it medicated? Is it a dandruff shampoo? The big ones for dandruff shampoos are either selenium, as in Selsun Blue. That's the medication in it. And zinc, as in Head and Shoulders. Now, funny story. I'm just going to give a real quick funny story here about my history. When I was a youth, I think probably preteen, teenager, I had a condition called Tinea versicolor, which is a skin fungus. It doesn't do much to you, just makes your skin not tan in those areas and kind of dry in those areas. And I went to the doctor, and first they said, well, you could just put, a dandruff shampoo like Selsun Blue on it. So you'd have to take shampoo, basically dry, like out of the shower, rub it all over the areas and let it sit for like 20 minutes, a half hour. So what was the medication in there? In Selsun Blue, it's selenium. So you were supposed to take a selenium containing shampoo. Now, remember, well, I'll tell you this now, one of my favorite ways of taking magnesium that I think is 10 times better than pills is topical or transdermal magnesium. I believe that approach is about 10 times better than pills. So obviously we can absorb minerals through our skin. One of the things that people underestimate is the poisons you absorb through your skin. Your skin is amazingly good at absorbing things, for better or worse. Ladies, this is why you need to watch out with all that garbage you're putting on your skin, all that chemical garbage. You are absorbing it. I can tell you, you can tell on a hair test if somebody uses antiperspirant because their aluminum levels go through the roof and their zirconium levels go through the roof. Just go and look at what's in antiperspirants. You'll find aluminum and zirconium. You absorb it. You absorb the stuff you put on your skin. You want to assume you absorb it. So if you're putting toxic stuff on your skin, you're absorbing it. Anyway, back to the Selsun Blue. I started thinking this was the early development of me getting into becoming the nutrition detective. I was going, wait, if putting selenium on the skin is supposed to help tinea go away, are we to assume that, wouldn't we logically then go, well, maybe the cells are just deficient in selenium? Doesn't that seem logical? So at the time, I think I was young enough that I wasn't going out buying supplements. I don't even think I had a driver's license yet. But I just wasn't going to do the Selsun Blue and walk around with like blue shampoo on my chest for a half hour. I just didn't do it. So anyway, so what the doctor did was he gave me my mom took me to the doctor, got some ketoconazole shampoo. The azole medications, A-Z-O-L-E, medications that end in A-Z-O-L-E. Go and look up your favorite azole medication. You could look up ketoconazole, you could look up fluconazole, type that in, plus the word cholestasis or liver injury or drug-induced liver injury. And what you'll find is that those medications are particularly good at causing cholestasis and liver injury. So I got that when I was probably a young teenager. And then later the doctor, I did it. It kind of helped, came back. The doctor told me, if you use this and it gets rid of it, the problem will be back next summer when you're sweaty and you're outside. He's like, it's always in the air. The tinea is always in the air. And if it lands on you again, which it's going to, and you're sweaty, it's going to show up again, which is exactly what happens. So then he gave me ketoconazole as a pill, and I took it. And funny thing, I didn't know back then, wasn't researching on the internet. Didn't really get to the internet until I was at college. And I come to find out later that ketoconazole has pretty good research on it destroying men's testosterone levels. Oh, that's great. Give that to a preteen male. Nice job, doc. Anyway, ever since then, I always noticed that I couldn't train as hard as my peers, which was interesting. I did pretty good in athletics and weight training and stuff like that, but I could never train as hard as other people. So anyway, I figured out later, I think I was in my late 20s where I was thinking about this tinea. So yes, I had tinea for a decade more. And I thought, what if I just took extra selenium for a while? Now, I'm not going to go over my dosing here because I don't need anybody overdosing selenium and then trying to blame me. But I took more than the standard dose of selenium for a month or two. Lo and behold, the tinea went away for good. Gosh, nutrient deficiencies, an essential mineral deficiency could drive a disease. Crazy, right? So that's kind of what we do. That's one of the sayings I go by is give the body what it needs, help it get rid of what it doesn't want or avoid what it doesn't want, and then get the heck out of the way. And that's a philosophy I got from Dr. James Sensenig back in naturopathic medical school. So that's my little story about selenium and selsun blue. So that's the zinc thing. So what could cause it? Okay, I'm not going to get into detail on the other things about zinc here, but when there is, very simply, hair test doesn't show excess copper stored in the liver. Blood test doesn't show excess copper stored in the liver. Same thing with vitamin A blood tests. They do not show excess stored vitamin A in the liver. Here's the simple thing. Blood tests do not show things that are stored excessively in the liver. And when we're talking about just minerals, because the hair test is only testing minerals, hair tests don't show excessive stored stuff in the liver. I do believe that excessive zinc on a hair test can be an indicator of, it can show what's going on in the liver, and it can show that there is excess copper in the liver. You got to know how to judge this stuff, and you got to have seen lots of hair tests like I do, but that can be a sign of stuff stuck in the liver. The hair test and the blood test can show stuff dumping out of the liver, absolutely, but that's only after you do the right things to get it to dump, which is, I don't have the time to go over here, and that's over the head of most people here. So what's next? So Sarah asked if will this be posted or given access to later? Yes, I'm gonna, assuming everything goes well here, I'll post this on the YouTube so it's permanently here. Yes, absolutely. So Jay is saying TTFD, thiamine tetrahydrofurfuryl disulfide, provides thiamine and also sulfur. Looks bad. So I just went into this. I went into a big theoretical rant about B vitamins last week on the Inner Circle. I have different theories on the B vitamins, especially supplemental ones. So here's an important thing: sulfur. Well, we'll just cover some basics on sulfur. And this is a big mistake that people can make when they listen to my work, is when I say I don't like Epsom salts because of the sulfate. What I'm saying is nobody has a sulfur deficiency. Nobody. A dietary sulfur deficiency does not exist. You can't eat foods without sulfur. You can't avoid it. It's high in meat. It's in everything. Okay? And never have I said to avoid sulfur. Excessive amounts of sulfur in the diet can cause hydrogen sulfide producing bacteria in your gut to get a hold of it. They make too much hydrogen sulfide, and then that can cause problems. I'm talking about excessive sulfur, or people trying to shove sulfur down their pie hole with supplements, MSM, NAC, glucosamine sulfate, chondroitin sulfate, DIM, indole 3-carbinol, where they're just trying to shove down all this sulfur. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a biblical perspective here. Brimstone in the Bible is sulfur. Not once is brimstone mentioned in a positive light in the Bible. And it seems to have a very strong smell. And hydrogen sulfide is extremely toxic. So maybe we just don't start worshiping at the altar of sulfur as so many people in the alternative world are doing. What I can tell you about sulfation, which is a big topic, is that the research is out there that vitamin A toxicity causes huge problems with sulfation, and that people with subclinical cholestasis problems also have problems with sulfation. And that is how your body metabolizes the pathways of sulfur. So we know that people can have problems with their sulfation, and then they get problems with other things. So could people taking in excess sulfur, whatever, regardless of the source, cause themselves problems? Yes, absolutely. And there's people out there doing, like Dr. Greg Nye's program where they're reducing a lot of sulfur in their diet and they're feeling better. That's great. Is that addressing the root cause? No. We have people here in my program who work on getting this toxicity out of them and getting enough specific nutrients, especially essential mineral nutrients, and then their sulfur problems go away. Like I was telling you earlier about I couldn't tolerate Epsom salts for a while. I mean, I went from, let me tell you how significant it was when I damaged myself with sulfur. I went from being able to go and do flotation tanks, like the sensory deprivation tanks, flotation tanks. I would be in those for it's 700 to 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts in 10 inches of water. Okay. And I would lay in that for an hour and a half. And it used, before I messed myself up with MSM, that used to cure, I would do two floats in 2 days. And I used to have really chronic insomnia, and it would cure my chronic insomnia for 2 days. I mean, for a month. 2 days of floats would fix my insomnia for a month. Then there was my MSM debacle, methyl sulfonyl methane, where I took a ton of it. I mean, we're talking on the very last day I took it, I took 36 grams. It was a 10-day stint where I was listening to this joker of a person about how much to take. It was a mistake on my part, but I learned a ton from it, so I don't really consider it a mistake. But it messed me up. And that's where I lost my ability to deal with sulfur. Did it cause a nutrient deficiency? Possibly. Over time, using the testing that I do on myself, that I use on other people and I do on myself, I fixed it. So I went from heavy being able to tolerate sulfur to not being able to tolerate sulfur at all. Then I couldn't even do a normal bath, a normal Epsom salt bath. 2 cups of Epsom salts in the water in a normal bath would make it so I couldn't sleep for 3 days. To now, I can tolerate it. Do I want to? No, I go, that's not worth it. Why am I going to go and, when I can use magnesium chloride, we know that we can tolerate chloride, right? Sodium chloride, you're eating it all day long. Salt. Magnesium chloride, magnesium bound to chloride. I know I tolerate it. Why add more sulfur? So that's that. Wendy's asking, I know that fasting is one of the quickest ways to help detoxify the liver. No. Being 10 pounds underweight, will I be able to have just 1 meal a day and stay healthy? These are some general things that I've seen in practice. Okay, fasting itself. If you stop eating, you're not pooping. If you're not pooping, you're not using the body's best way of getting rid of bile. Okay? I need to go find these references, but there was somebody out there who had said that there was distinct research on fasting accelerating liver injury. Now people go, I've never heard of that. And you go, well, maybe there's a reason why we don't fast all the time. And if we have an epidemic of liver injury, aka subclinical cholestasis, just so you know, there is research out there saying that normal pregnancies are associated with a mild subclinical cholestasis, like all of them. And this is in the literature. Every single, they're saying in theory, every single pregnancy out there today has a mild subclinical cholestasis, which means they're refluxing bile into the blood. Subclinical means that the doctors can't find it. They know it's there based on the symptoms, but the doctors can't find it on imaging or labs. Morning sickness is cholestasis. How many women do you know who get morning sickness during pregnancy? It's pretty much all of them, isn't it? Maybe there's some who get away with it, but it's become a normal thing. Morning sickness is actually bile getting backed up into the stomach, and that's what's causing you nausea. And if you get a lot of bile in your stomach, that's what's causing you to vomit. And what does eating do to reduce morning sickness? You dilute the bile with the food. Instead of the bile just sitting there touching all of your stomach and irritating it, you put the food in there and it mixes with it and it dilutes what's actually touching your stomach so it can make you feel better. Okay? Fasting itself, think of to detox the liver. This is the thing that people mistakenly, they don't quite get about detox. The only time you have ever detoxed anything truly is once it has left your body. People say the liver's detoxing stuff. No, the liver's not detoxing stuff. The liver's processing stuff and putting it into your bile. And until you get rid of that bile, whether that bile goes out through your poop or whether that bile gets refluxed back into your blood and goes out through your kidneys, which damages them, or goes out through your blood and goes out through your skin, which then comes out through your skin. And think of if you're detoxing toxins onto your skin and it just sits on your skin. It comes out, like, think of it, pee and poop leave. They're out. That's why we want to first, your poop is the best designed exit pathway. Kidneys are next because it leaves. Why do people, think of as an example, why do people with acne, why do they say to wash your face a lot? Because it could help your acne. Am I saying that? That's a very mixed answer. But why would washing one's face often help with acne? Because if they're pushing toxins out through their skin and it just sits there and it causes problems, if you wash it off, the sooner you wash it off, the less it aggravates your skin. Okay? And people who have acne and who are not doing very, very significant diet things to fix it, they're missing the boat. Or then they go and they take Accutane and they damage their liver for good. Well, not for good. We can fix it. But most people out there trying to fix their Accutane damage are doing things that are not really going to help them that much. And they're not getting down to the root cause. But so with fasting, you stop eating. Okay, the thing that fasting does is when you don't eat, you're not putting, at least food-wise, you're not putting more toxic stuff in. Okay, that's legit. But you also stop pooping. And you stop triggering any bile dumps because there's no bile to dump. So why would people feel better? Why would a cholestatic person, I don't know if you know what cholestasis means, but it means bile's going backwards into the blood. I explain this in great detail. Necessary detail, not huge detail, but I explain this in the detox program. They'll love the liver. You'll love your liver program. Cholestasis is bile going back into your blood, and that's what causes your systemic symptoms. If you stop dumping bile, whether it's going into your guts, which is where it's supposed to go, or part of it going back into your blood, you stop dumping bile, you feel better. So everybody goes, oh, I feel so much better when I'm fasting. And then I go back to eating normal food and they feel like garbage, same garbage within about a couple weeks. Did they detox anything extra? Nope. They simply put in less toxins for a while, which shifts the balance. Sure. Does shift the balance, but is it getting anything out? Not really. Your liver runs out of the proteins and amino acids it needs to run the detox systems in about 3 days of not eating. Okay? So that's that. So David asks, do you have a view on how someone that is eating lots of carotenoids should transition to a low carotenoid diet? I have a thought that just lowering vitamin A intake too fast is problematic. Okay, so can it be, is it problematic? It seems to for some people. So what have we seen? So what have Grant Genereux, who I learned about vitamin A toxicity from, ggeneroux.blog, if somebody wants to type that out in the comments, Grant's website so people can go see his free ebooks. That is what got me into this. Once I get into something and I realize it's true, then I tend to start figuring out all the mechanisms because that's that's what I do. What we found was that some people, when they switch to a vitamin A, and there's no such thing as a zero vitamin A diet. Get that part out of your head. There is no such thing as a zero vitamin A diet. People are out there obsessing over the tiniest bits of vitamin A. I don't think it's necessary if you do the other things, because it's not just vitamin A that's the problem with people's liver. The problem with vitamin A, the biggest problem with vitamin A, is that we store it so easily in the liver. And then if people are eating excess fat diets, you store even more of it. You absorb even more of the vitamin A and you store even more of it in your liver. That's the big problem. And now we have everybody these days worshiping at the altars of magical dietary fats. And then they're eating too much fructose. And then you combine all this, whether people are on the side of eating too much fructose or they're on the side of eating too much fat, they've both been misled. We're trying to find the middle ground that is not the extreme sides. But what we found, what Grant and I found as we were talking to people over this time, is that sometimes people would have we call it the honeymoon phase. And they would feel they would start to feel better right away, you know, for a week or a month or 6 months. And then they would start having some of their symptoms again. And the haters out there who don't want to understand this will say, oh my gosh, they're getting vitamin A deficiency. The research shows that vitamin A deficiency in a normal vitamin A liver doesn't happen for years when they measure vitamin A in the blood. And for you folks who are all like animal vitamin A, they're talking about serum retinol. They're talking about animal vitamin A in the blood. Okay. So vitamin A deficiency in the literature doesn't happen for years. And then I did a whole video on this YouTube channel about how there's lots of research out there, countrywide research and small study-wide research, where they showed that they had all these people with vitamin A deficiency who had no problems, none of the supposed eye problems that go along with vitamin A deficiency, none of the problems of vitamin A. Vitamin A deficiency isn't a thing. Anyway, so what is happening to these people? Here's the complicated thing. Vitamin A causes cholestasis, which is it can be subclinical or it can be clinical. If you've ever had elevated liver enzymes, that's cholestasis. If you've ever had elevated bilirubin, that's cholestasis. Bilirubin, too much bilirubin in your blood, that's cholestasis. If you ever had high GGT, if you've ever had high alk phos, if you've ever had high serum bile acids, if you've ever had a systemic symptom that you couldn't figure out and maybe you went and you did things that were nicer to your liver and you seemed to improve, you have cholestasis, okay? If you ever drank too much alcohol and developed problems from that, and then all of a sudden you stop the alcohol and your problems go away, the alcohol was causing you to become cholestatic. All of these problems are rooted in bile, toxic bile, getting into your blood. Very simply, okay? So you start reducing your vitamin A. Your liver starts becoming less cholestatic, but it's not done. It's not done being cholestatic. You start dumping more bile because you're able to, but some of it's still going backwards. This is not an easy problem to fix. We're trying to fix, like, basically the sewer system of your bile, which is the bile ducts, and they're broken. And we have to fix it. So the people, what we've seen is, so here's the thing we want to think about. If there truly was such a thing as vitamin A deficiency, and these people were getting worse, right? So if they went on a low vitamin A diet and they were eating it and it was a deficiency, let's theorize that it was a deficiency, and they kept eating it and they got worse. We would expect them to get worse, right? Because the deficiency would just get worse. Well, the people who pushed through ended up getting through it and getting even better. It's not a deficiency. Could they have other nutrient deficiencies? Absolutely. That is what I deal with in my testing. Are there significant deficiencies? Think about this. If you stored 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades worth of vitamin A in your liver, and ladies especially, but men too, let's say you've stored 3, 4, 5 decades of copper in your liver. Ladies, birth control does this. See my video on birth control on the channel. Birth control raises vitamin A levels and raises copper levels, and it makes you infertile. What a weird coincidence. Oh, you should see my infertility video on this channel, how that's connected to vitamin A. Copper does it too. Isn't that weird that they use a copper IUD to induce fertility? I mean, to induce infertility. Sorry, infertility. Do you think you'd be absorbing? So if I tell you you can absorb minerals through your skin, ladies, how much copper do you think you're absorbing through your cervix when you have a piece of copper stuck there and it's wet all day long? Talk about transdermal or, absorbing it through the skin. Anyway, so this whole, can people go to, so what we're trying to do, and Grant and I have talked about this, and Grant, just so you know, Grant comes on the Inner Circle. If you guys ever wanted to hear him answer questions, he comes on the Inner Circle once a month, and he joins me for about an hour to go over the questions that are specific to him, and he's super generous in doing that. But yeah, so Grant and I talked about it, and we're kind of going, when people do this too fast, this is true detox. When they do it too fast, they push into problems. It'd be just like lifting weights. If you lift too many weights too fast, you can hurt yourself. Is lifting weights good for you? Yes. Generally, yes. Getting stronger is a very good thing. Can you push with too much weight too quickly? Yes. Or the other analogy I use is if you have a liver injury, which if you have chronic illness or chronic health issues, you have a liver injury of some extent. Think of it as if you injured your ankle, okay? We want to rehab that. Can you push too fast in rehab and hurt the ankle again if you do the wrong things, or you try to, you sprained your ankle and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I'm going to practice jumping before it's ready. Could you slow down the rehab process or actually re-injure the ankle? Of course you could. These things must be done safely and gently and slowly. And what does everybody want to do? Too many people don't listen to me. I go over this a lot on the network, and now we have lots of great people on the network who are helpful in slowing people down, because everybody wants this to be gone. I mean, I know that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired thing, and people are a little bit impatient of being sick. You've been poisoned for decades. It doesn't go away in a weekend cleanse, okay? So let me get to the next question. But so just what Grant and I have been talking about is going a bit slower or a bit more gently on the diet. So we don't, what you're actually doing as you detox your liver, you have too much toxic bile stored in your liver. And when you do things too quickly, you dump that out too fast. You unleash this stored toxicity. What does the toxic bile have in it? It has bile acids, which if you don't know how toxic bile is, you need to spend some time in the research. We've got toxic copper in it. We've got toxic vitamin A in it. We've got toxic iron in it. You've got potentially any fat-soluble poison or toxin you have been exposed to in your entire life. If it's been stored in that part that you're unleashing, it just flows out into your system. Do you think that'll cause you symptoms? Yes. So, let me get to the next question. So we are, I got about 10 minutes left. So let's see. Where was it? Vic asks, at what point do you accept that you may have an individual level of cholestasis / liver injury that cannot be reversed to stop a certain chronic symptom that never ends and is incredibly stubborn? You know, I was talking to my kid about this yesterday. My son has been diagnosed when he was 2 or 3 with anaphylactic allergies, before I knew about all this stuff. And I was talking to him about, like, I have a meniscus issue from my years of being a catcher, a baseball catcher, and Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting and doing all sorts of, crazy mobility stuff on the floor. So I was talking to him about his anaphylactic issue, and he was saying, Dad, what if it never goes away? I said, okay, well, my knee injury, I'm actually going to go get it. I'm going to get platelet-rich prolotherapy on it today. Pretty excited, little nervous because it's supposed to not be very comfortable. But where they're taking my own blood, taking the platelets out, and then re-injecting it into the knee with other stuff to stimulate healing in the knee, which inside the knee, you have terrible blood flow in terms of getting healing stuff. Your blood does the healing. This is a common thing that in the alternative circles, they'll be like, your blood does the healing, so you need to put good stuff in your blood. What I'm saying here, your blood, if your blood has the good stuff, what I'm saying about your chronic disease is your blood has the bad stuff too. What we are trying to do with the testing is to figure out what you need to put the good stuff back in it. With the whole detox program, the Love Your Liver program, we are trying to figure out what in this world we are being exposed to that is damaging our liver. And what of those things has been stored in your liver so it's consistently over time causing more and more problems. But anyway, back to the story. My son asked, what if this never goes away? I said, well, what about my knee? I said, I'm going to have my knee the rest of my life, right? He said, yeah. My boy's 10. I said, okay, I need my knee for the rest of my life, right? And he said, yeah. I said, so do you think I'm ever going to give up on my knee? Do you think I'm ever going to give up on trying to fix it? He knows me. He said, no. I said, so do you think I'm ever going to give up on you helping to figure out your anaphylactic allergies? And he said, no. I said, that's damn right. So funny thing about my son's anaphylactic allergies is I was talking to him about it. I said, well, let's look at how you're doing. When he was 2 or 3, I don't remember the exact age, he ate a dish that had walnuts and pecans in it, which are 2 of his 3 allergens that we figured out. He chewed it up and he spit it out. He didn't like it. So, he's 2 or 3. You can't exactly ask him what he's feeling. He wasn't very great at elucidating what he was feeling, and he hadn't had an anaphylactic reaction to it. But his front lip swelled up like a cherry. I mean, a 2-year-old with a cherry-sized front lip. That's when we took him to the allergist, and they did the skin prick testing. We figured out he had an anaphylactic allergy. But recently, he accidentally ate some, what was it, chocolate-covered pretzels or something that somebody gave him. And he didn't know that he hadn't checked the bag. He's very good at self-care in terms of protecting himself. He hadn't checked the bag for once. Somebody, I don't know who checked, but somebody checked the bag and they were like, oh my gosh, spit it out. So he spit it out. But he ate something that had pecans in it, which is one of his allergies. He had no reaction. Not even skin reaction, no mouth reaction, no itch. It's exactly the same thing that happened to him before. But he had no reaction. I'm going to say that I do believe we are figuring out the connection between cholestasis and anaphylactic allergies. And I am very confident that my son will, as they like to say in allergy world, grow out of his tree nut allergies, which our allergist said she's never seen a kid grow out of tree nut allergies. She said she'd never seen it in practice. I think we're going to be the first. And if you want to know how kids can grow out of conditions, here's the best theory I have. And this is based on Grant's work. He came up with this theory. So the liver, right? So back to you, Vic, about the question, can the liver fix itself? If you had just a tiny piece of liver left, they know that your liver can completely regenerate itself. The only organ in the body that can regenerate itself. Your liver is the toughest thing, the most resilient thing in our bodies, but we have damaged it a lot for most of us, okay? So you can regenerate an entire liver. Well, let's go over what the theory of how kids grow out of health conditions. You know, kids grow out of asthma or kids grow out of allergies or whatever. Their liver is growing, adding new cells, new bile ducts. That's the key part in cholestasis. Your liver is adding entirely new, clean, not toxic yet liver. When you add new liver cells, they're not toxic. And you have bile ducts for them, which is the opposite of cholestasis. Cholestasis is where the bile ducts, for whatever reason, I mean, how can your bile ducts get damaged and cause cholestasis? They can disappear. It's called vanishing bile duct syndrome. They could infarct, which would be like the equivalent of a bile duct heart attack or stroke, where they actually burst a hole in them. They can scar shut. They can, all sorts of things. Or I saw once in a kid who was born, in studies where the kids are born with cholestasis. They call it neonatal cholestasis. It's happening more and more. Jaundice in babies. Bilirubin, excess bilirubin in their skin. How would the bile get to their skin? Oh, you mean through the bloodstream? So you're saying, what was the last statistic I saw from like 2006? Babies, 60% of babies are being born with jaundice right now. Jaundice is cholestasis. 60% of babies in 2006. Do you think that number is higher or lower right now? Do you think people are more toxic or less toxic 15 years later? 60% of babies being born with cholestasis. Interesting thing about the virus going around is that one of the first signs of it, I saw some articles, was liver enzymes going up. Interesting. So anyway, your liver can regenerate from something small. Kids grow out of things because they make new liver. They're finally able to detox better, get rid of the bile better, and their symptoms go away because they're not putting so much bile in their blood. Do I think this can be fixed if the right things are undertaken? Yes. Is it going to take a while? Yes, especially if areas of your body, like everybody's got their weak links to this. So this is why chronic disease, if it was bile getting into the blood causing chronic disease, whatever your weak link, the first weak link is where you get your first health problem. Weak links in the chain break first, right? So then let's say you don't fix the problem and the problem slowly is getting worse, or it's just still the same problem. First weak link breaks, enough stress over time, second weak link breaks. Enough stress over time, third weak link breaks. Are you following me here? This is why somebody gets, as they say in the literature, once you get one autoimmune disease, you're probably going to get another one. And then over time, you're probably going to get another one. Okay. What are we doing? Well, you can talk to people on the network. We're seeing a lot of autoimmune diseases get less. This is a years-long process. This is not, people are like, oh, I did low vitamin A for 2 months. Why am I not better yet? This is not how this works. Not only do we have to empty out your liver so it can then start healing of these poisons, your liver has to then re-architecture itself. It has to make new cells and get rid of them. Get rid of the old stuff, put in the new stuff. This is not a weekend cleanse. When people do these things, these detox diets, they may or may not be putting in more or less poisons. But 2 days is not going to, it's a drop in the bucket of how long you have to do it. Okay. So let's see. Mark says, as we find bicarbonate helps, is sodium, potassium bicarbonate okay, as well as 50-50 salt? If you are the type where bicarbonate helps you or you feel better on it, sodium, potassium bicarbonate would be better balanced, in my opinion, than just sodium bicarb, than baking soda, yes. Now, the whole everybody needs to alkalize idea that floats around the internet, that's a crock, okay? If your blood became too acidic, actually if your blood went below a 7, you'd probably be dead. You'd at least be in the hospital. So your blood has to be alkaline above a 7 for you to live. But you can get symptoms in other parts of your body because they become too alkaline or acidic. One of the ideas, one of the things I was taught in school was that, a lot of health problems are when a body part that's supposed to be alkaline becomes acidic. And when a body part that's supposed to be acidic, like your stomach, becomes too alkaline. That's a whole nother topic about GERD and stomach acid. So if you're the type who, let's say you've experimented with some bicarb and you feel better, it helps your symptoms or it helps other issues, go for it. You got to remember, you're taking basically like a drug level alkalizer. Can drugs be pushed too far too fast? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't think that just because it's close, nothing about baking soda or sodium bicarb or potassium bicarb are no more natural than white sugar, collagen, or cocaine. They're all totally purified, isolated chemical constituents. Collagen is just amino acids. They took, a cow and processed it down until it's a white powder. MCTs are basically a drug version of fat. Don't think that these things are magical. They're basically the equivalent of drugs. So you better be careful with them. Now, some people, me as an example, the type I am, I take bicarb and it just makes me feel bad. So should I do that? No. I have plenty of people who came to get my help who were into the alkalizing and the vegan thing, and they were trying to push their body as alkaline as possible. And you want to know what happens once they got a certain point of alkalizing? They got worse and worse. Worse and worse. To the point where some were saying their teeth were falling out. Oh, but they're so alkaline. We are trying to find the middle ground. There is no health in extremes. We're trying to figure, the lies are at the extremes. That's where the lies are. Okay, I think I got to get going. So I have the inner circle right now. I got to get going. Hope you all enjoyed it. I plan on doing this once a week. So we'll be back, don't worry. But yeah, I'm going to do the inner circle right now, which is basically this, except I'm taking questions and I will post research and I share a screen because I can't share a screen very easily here. The inner circle's on the Detox Network, which is found at nutritiondetective.com. Like I said, there's a lower priced version called the Advanced Detox Program, which is where you get to see the videos a month later, and you don't get to ask the questions. So hope you can join us there. In the future, this video stream was only shared with the Detox Network. This was kind of a bonus one for them to ask questions. And now this is going to be announced everywhere, social media and all that fun stuff. So hope you all enjoyed it. We will see you next week. This is the Nutrition Detective, Dr. Garrett Smith, signing off. Bye.